Good day, folks, and welcome to the Ocean State Cuisine. In today's video, I'm going to be going over a dish that I absolutely adore. I love this dish. I would put this in the top 5 of all my favorite foods. Now, when I tell people about this dish, they get the wrong impression. This is Scungilli. Scungilli means in Italian, conch, which is large sea snails. So no, it is not these kind of snails. It's not the snails you see on a log in a swamp. So I just wanted to clear the air on that. This is a conch shell. They come in many shapes, sizes, and colors. This is where the snails come from. So these are the shells that we see that are washed up on shore a lot, that people put up to their ear to listen to the ocean. This is the conch or the snail we'll be using today. And when they're cooked, they have to cook for many hours to get tender enough to make them edible. Now, the state of Rhode Island, this is a very popular dish. Every restaurant has them, all the markets have it, so you don't even really have to make it if you live in Rhode Island. It is everywhere. But unfortunately, because I don't live there any longer, the state that I live in, they don't even know what this is. So I have to buy the snails in these cans. And it's a really good product, but it's very expensive. There's 29 ounces in this can, and they go for almost $30 a can. And today, I'm going to be using 2 cans. But because I love this salad so much, I do not complain when it comes to buying these, because I'm just fortunate enough that companies provide this. I will provide a link in today's video in the description panel if you do want to try this. Now, I buy it from Amazon, and it's made by a company called La Monica, and it is fantastic. So there is a lot involved ingredient-wise when it comes to making snail salad. So this video will be rather long, but it should be rather interesting. So let's get started with one of my favorite foods, Scungilli snail salad. Now, once we see all the ingredients that's needed to make this, we're going to see why the video is going to be a little long. And the reason for this is because there is no lettuce involved in snail salad. A little more about that in just a moment. So here's the ingredients. We're going to need some fresh ground pepper. Of course, we're going to need some salt. Scungilli is not salty when you buy it in these cans. We're also going to use a red onion. We're also going to be using some celery, as we see right here. And we're going to be using fresh herbs today. We're going to be using some fresh basil, along with some fresh curly parsley. Any parsley will do, but again, we spent so much money on the snails, we want to use the best ingredients we could possibly buy. Now here is some curly leaf lettuce. I'll explain that in just a moment. And then of course, we have some lemon juice. I wish I had some real lemons, but I don't, so the juice is going to do just fine. And I'm going to use pre-sliced black olives. And I also bought a jar of pre-sliced Spanish green olives. Next, pepperoncinis, known as pepper rings. I get these also pre-sliced. This is optional, but this is pre-sliced cherry peppers, and they got a pretty good heat to them. Very similar to a fresh jalapeno. And we're going to be using good seasoned Italian dressing for this. And there's the carafe or the bottle that we're going to be using to mix this all in. Then of course, some garlic powder. And some crushed red pepper flakes, again optional, because we're already going to have some heat from the cherry peppers. And some great imported olive oil. And red wine vinegar. For a dish like this, I really recommend red wine vinegar. And nothing goes better on the side than a slice of hard crust bread. Now the snails come packed in some water solution, so we want to drain them well, and then we want to put them in a sifter or a colander and rinse them off in cold water. They have a pretty powerful smell, but the taste is very mild. So that's why we want to clean them and rinse them off. And this is how thin they are and tender when you first take them out of the can. I actually like my snails a little more firm than this when I'm making snail salad, but I'll show you how we get around that. So now I'm going to start adding all the other ingredients to this. It doesn't matter which one you put in first. I'm going to start off with the black olives. Now if you only have whole olives, you can just squeeze them with your fingers as long as they're pitless, and they'll break apart in pieces. And now the same with the Spanish olives, the green Spanish olives. Now with these I advise trying to get these sliced because these are more firm and you can't just break them apart with your fingers. You'd have to use a knife on all of them. And I'm probably going to use about a half a jar. So again, you just go by sight when it comes to building this. It's totally up to you on what the ratio is going to be. But keep in mind, is because we don't bulk it up with lettuce, we need to use all these ingredients in a good amount of them so we get a good amount of snail salad. So you probably want a ratio of about 50% snails to 50% vegetables. Next, one of my favorites in this is the sliced pepper rings or pepperoncinis. And again, it makes it look really good. Now a trick that we used to do at the restaurants is we would actually put them in the freezer for about 5 or 10 minutes before we were going to slice them. because we used to slice up a whole bag every morning on a deli slicer, and it lowers the irritation level to your eyes. But even then, they would still sting us a bit. That's a good sign of a real fresh onion. Now, red onions compared to white or yellow are pretty tough to slice because they're so narrow. They don't have a wide base that you could stand it up on. So you really got to be careful when it comes to dealing with these kind of red onions. Now, when I get down to the end like this where it's difficult, I just lay it on its side and I start just dicing it up. Now, when I dice up red onions for this salad, I try to use coarse chunks because you want them big enough where your fork will actually grab and bite into them. You don't want them fine like you would use on the top of a hot dog. So now, while I'm dicing this up, or coarsing this up, I'm going to go over a few facts about the snail salad. How come we don't use lettuce? Well, because this is a tossed salad. So we're going to be adding our dressing in this, which is a marinade. And we know that any kind of lettuce would just welt up and just turn to mush. This is a salad that's got wholesome things in it, things with a crunch, things that you actually bite into. And I end up using the whole red onion. I love a lot of onion in my snail salad. Now, if you don't have a red onion, regular onions, yellow onions, white onions work fine enough. I use them all the time. This is one colorful looking salad. I love it. Now, what I'm going to do next with my fingers is I'm just going to go through the onions a bit. The pieces that are really big, I'm just going to snap them in half or rip them in half. And I'm also going to pull apart the layers and fluff them up a bit. Next, we need to chop up our fresh basil. Now, if you don't have fresh basil, canned basil is fine, or even Italian seasoning. Italian seasoning I didn't use today, but that's normally what I use. I figured the last couple of videos that I made, I used Italian seasoning in almost every video, so I wanted to switch it up a bit. Plus, when it comes to making videos, there's nothing better looking than these fresh herbs. And the smell of this basil is just amazing. And this I'm just giving like a medium coarse chop. Now we're just going to add this to the salad. And that color looks great. We're actually starting to get there. And next we're going to do the same thing with our parsley. We're just going to give this a nice fine chop. And again, if you don't have fresh parsley, you could use the canned parsley. And the main thing with parsley is that it's a garnish and it makes dishes look wonderful with little mild aftertones. So I hope now that I changed the picture in everybody's head that was thinking of swamp snails. This looks pretty good, doesn't it? Now we need to start adding the rest of our ingredients and finish this up. So now I'm going to use the cherry hot peppers. Again, this is an option. It's totally up to you. If you have chili peppers or any other kind of peppers that you like that's got a bite to it, feel free to use them. And again, these come in sometimes with the stems attached, and again, I like to remove them just like I did with the pepperoncinis. And then I like to give these a fine coarse chop. Now, this is just an accent to the dish. You don't want to use a lot of these, because like I said, they are pretty hot, but they add overall a nice bite to the snail salad. I already added some dressing to the salad. But just to save time in the video, I didn't show that because I'm going to be doing it again. So right now I'm just going to hit it with some more black pepper and salt. You want to use a lot of dressing in this salad because it's almost got to swim in it. That's the magic in this salad that makes it taste so good. And again, I'm going to add just a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes because we already put in the cherry hot peppers. So again, this is very optional. And you want to keep giving it a good stir. Now let me back up a bit because I almost forgot a very important part. I said earlier that the snails right now are very soft. And they need to firm up just a bit. Sometimes when you buy snails, they can be rather tough and chewy, like rubber. That's not what you want. But you definitely want to bite into something. If that happens, a lot of times that's the way that they were cooked. So just like sushi, we know that vinegar and lemon has an acid base to it. That's what kind of cooks sushi a bit and sets it up. That's the same in snail salad. So here we are with the mixture right now for the good seasoned Italian dressing. And again, for this amount, this is my second craft that I'm going to be using. And I go right by the instructions on the bottle. And that's the reason why there's a film on the bottle right now, is because I just used it in the first mixture. So again, the first line, you just fill it up with the vinegar. That's the first thing that you want to add. And then the next line is W for water. You got to add a little bit of water. And then I usually put in the good seasoned mix and then I add the vinegar up to the V line. And I use red wine vinegar for that. And again, the good olive oil. Now, to mix vinegar with oil, you have to use the water. That's the reason why there's a little line there to put some water in there, which is why I just stepped away now because I went over to the sink. So now again, getting back to the other thing. All right, so now once the snails or the salad soaks in this, okay, it's going to start to firm up the snails a little more. And that's what's going to give you that perfect texture that you're looking for Scungilli snail salad. And then to help with that and add flavor, we're also going to be adding some lemon juice. So yes, this is something you don't want to just make and then start eating it. You want it to set up and marinate for a while. I get impatient because I love this so much that I usually eat it maybe about 6 hours later. But the best is to wait until the next day. So you could see, again, I don't know if I mentioned this at the start of the video, but I use 2 cans of snails. Because a friend of mine actually loves this so much, and he always lived in North Carolina. He never had it before until I made it for him. And so anytime I buy these now, he asks me to order a can for him, and then I divide this in half and he gets half of the salad. So I bet you total, this all weighs about 3 pounds at least. So if you're just making 1 can of snails, you only need probably 1 bottle or craft of the Italian dressing. Again, for this amount, it's doubled, so I use double the amount of the Italian dressing. And you do not want to use anything but good seasoned Italian dressing mix. And again, a good splash of the lemon juice, as we see right here. If you got the real lemons, hey, even better. And stirring it is very important. You want to make sure that this gets well coated in all that dressing mix. And then I give it just a little taste to see where we stand, and it tasted really good. And that's it, folks. That's as far as mixing up all the ingredients for our snail salad. Looks really good, doesn't it? Now next, we need to package it up or put it in containers or whatnot. The best thing to use, I think, is food storage bags if you have them large enough, which I happen to have. So I'm going to double these up just to make sure that it's not going to leak. Now we need to scoop it carefully into the bag. If you don't have any of these bags, just use a large enough container if it's got a real tight lid on it. You're going to see why in just a moment. But the spoon that I was using isn't large enough. I'd be there for 10 minutes. So I'm going to get a larger spoon, even though it's slotted. And we're just going to use that for now. Now the bag, it's kind of flimsy right now, the way that I'm doing it. I should have put it inside of another container and just droop the top edges over the edge of that container, and it would fill up a lot quicker. But what I ended up doing was that I just folded over the top of both bags, and it made it a lot easier. As we see right here. Once we scoop it all in there, we're just going to get the excess dressing now, and we're just going to pour it all over the top inside the bag. I'm going to squeeze out the excess air, give it a nice twist, and then put a twist tie on that. Now what I'm going to do is just wash out the bowl that we just used, because I want to put the bag of snails back inside that bowl to store it in the refrigerator for added insurance in case if the bag does leak. And now that we cleaned out our bowl, we're just going to dry it. And again, if you have a large enough container with a real tight lid on it, which I'm going to show you in just a moment the reason why it's got to be tight, you could also use that. So now I'm going to use a twist tie to seal off the bag. And make sure that you put the twist tie on really, really tight. And there we have it. Now why am I doing all this? It's because it's not really swimming in the amount of dressing that I wanted, or else I would have to use way too much dressing. So what I do, just to compensate for this, to make sure that it evenly gets marinated, is I rotate the bag inside the bowl every few hours or so, or maybe like 2 times a day, as it's marinating in the refrigerator. This here way we know that the whole salad's getting coated in that delicious, good seasoned Italian mix. This is why if you do use a container instead of the food storage bags, you're going to have to make sure that it's airtight, because you're going to have to flip that over too if you don't have it swimming in the Italian dressing. Now in the refrigerator, it goes. Now I would say you could probably taste a little bit of it after a few hours, but you really want it to sit like a full day, or if not, overnight. And again, that's going to firm up the snails a little more. It's going to give it that nice little chew to it, but where it shouldn't be like rubber. Now the full night has passed, and now it's time to reveal the finished product. And there we are, folks. Italian style Scungilli snail salad. Man, is this good. And again, there is no lettuce inside the actual salad, but to put it on a bed of lettuce is perfectly fine when you serve it up. And I recommend a nice chunk of hard crust bread with some butter. And I usually like to put a couple more squirts of lemon juice on mine, and then some red hot sauce or Tabasco sauce. So again, there we are. I know it's been a long video, but we did cover a lot of neat things about Scungilli snail salad and a little bit about the history behind it. Again, I will provide a link in the description panel of today's video if you want to order yourself a can or two. And again, until the next time, thanks for stopping by and checking out Ocean State Cuisine. Feel free to sub up and comment down below, because we love to hear from you. And we're going to be coming out with more delicious videos in the very near future. You guys have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.